In this video, we are going to be backtesting euro dollar over the 2024 price action. We're going to be testing the same strategy that we've recently used on the channel to backtest pound US dollar over the 2022 price action, which got us these results. We had a 54% win rate with a 1-to-3 mechanical risk to reward system. And this is the same system that we're going to be testing today, but over euro dollar 2024. So guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's head right over to the charts and let's jump straight into the backtesting. Right guys, so thanks for joining me here over on the charts. We'll get right into it, and as always, we'll start off on higher time frame, work our way down in order to execute our trade. So going into this session, right, we can see that price was overall, actually if we zoom out to weekly time frame first of all, we can basically see that price had made this extended move down. It had come up, reacted to this area of supply, which had originally caused a change of character back here in September of the previous year, as you guys can see. So one way of viewing price would be like this, that we've had this change of character, right? Price came back up, tapped the supply. However, there is also another way of viewing this, and I want to keep that in mind. And as I always tell the guys inside VIP, make sure to react to price, don't try to predict where it's going to go, and that's really the key. So the other way of viewing this is that we've also had a sweep of these previous lows, right? And then on lower time frame, from that sweep, daily time frame did technically cause this change of character, right? Just here. And now we've had price retrace all the way back down into this sort of imbalance here that it's just tapped into. It's also taken out some previous higher time frame lows as well. So if we just map the structure, right, what we've seen is from this weekly supply, we've had our daily change of character just here. Price came back up, held this area of supply, broke structure once again. So technically daily time frame is still bearish, right? But what I want to keep in mind is that alternative scenario which I just discussed, which was the fact that we have technically had this daily change of character after price swept these previous lows to the left, and now it has come back down and grabbed these lows once again. So I want to keep both sides in mind, both buyers and sellers, and basically just react to which one price presents. If we look on the 4-hour, you can also see interestingly as well, from that sweep that we had to the left, price has now on the 4-hour time frame started to shift bullish, as you can see just there. It created this 4-hour change of character, came down, held this area of demand, and now we've kind of seen price start to break higher, right? So actually going into the session, I'm going to be looking for some more longs, unless obviously this was just a sweep for price to continue lower. That's also another scenario. So here what I would look for is potentially for this demand zone to hold. Ideally, we see a sweep of it because there's not really any liquidity resting above it. Okay, no, so price just induced the area. That's fine. So we've now seen another break of structure. But what makes this very nice for me now is the fact that we've had all of this momentum coming in. You know, it's a lot clearer now because price has created this volume after originally shifting back bullish. So if we now go to lower time frames, and we will look for a new point of interest essentially. Next point of interest, potentially this hourly demand zone, if price can retrace for us. I also, actually never mind, we've already got the session indicator on here. Let's play this forward a little bit. Let's just see how price develops here. I would also consider longs straight from here, now that price has grabbed this last bit of liquidity. This is also one of the other tips that I give the guys inside VIP, which is that make sure you're monitoring the areas where it's basically the last bit of liquidity before the imbalance, because price will typically react to that. And obviously combining that with higher time frame, so it's a powerful confluence. So yeah, what I'm seeing here is that we've had price overall in this uptrend. It's come down, grabbed these previous lows. We still have this area of demand just below, so I'm still, you know, that's still a valid zone if price were to come into it. But I'm also going to be monitoring this first zone now that price has swept that liquidity. And as always, we're using the M5 for entries on every single trade. We've also had Asia low taken during the London session as well. So if we can get price to shift bullish here, this would be a nice potential first trade. All right, cool. So this is even nicer now because price has tapped into that demand zone. as you can see, wicked out the previous low. We've had our change of character. Price has also created an area of imbalanced demand, this sort of whole region. So if we set our buy limit on this zone, stops below the low as always, and we will go for a one. If for anybody that's unfamiliar with my system, I basically always target a mechanical 1 to 3 risk to reward on every single trade. With this particular trade, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drag the entry slightly lower just so we can get a higher risk, well, not a higher risk to reward, but essentially a better entry, because one thing I don't want to do is target far past the current high, because when price takes this high, we know there's a high probability of a retracement. So yeah, let's see if this pulls back for us. Yeah, nice, there we go. So we're tagged into this to see how it goes. There we go, nice reaction so far. Price has created a new breaker structure. That's a good sign. Let's see if it wants to continue. Yeah, nice, there we go. So perfect first trade to start the session. Very simple analysis, and as you guys know, I basically take the same trade every single trade. I only use this one system. So in this particular case, we had higher time frame direction, pullback, sweep of previous liquidity, tap into demand, M5 confirmation, and 1 to 3 risk to reward, as I do on all of my trades. If you guys haven't tried that out as well, I would highly recommend it. Doing the mechanical 1 to 3 has been a massive game changer for me, and has helped me massively. So yeah, now basically looking for more longs. One thing I do want to keep in mind here, going back to that idea of the last bit of liquidity before the imbalance, I want to keep in mind that we do have this, which is again that last bit of liquidity before this imbalance. So essentially this area is kind of like a make or break area, because we know that because there's only this imbalance to the left, right, either price is gonna go a bit above this, then continued lower, or it's just going to keep going up to the next liquidity, which is this kind of supply zone above this previous high, right? I wouldn't go for this one because there's no liquidity below it, and I wouldn't expect price to react to it. So yeah, for the time being, looking for more longs. We've now had London session open the following day, so let's see if we can get another trade here. Let's see how price reacts here. Okay, so it looks like it's doing a bit of a bigger retracement here. I wouldn't see this as a reversal, though. It doesn't really have any reason to reverse here. Maybe we could see a sweep of some of these previous lows, but let's just see how it reacts. It has tapped back into this demand, but it hasn't yet swept the liquidity, which is throwing me off. Yeah, it looks like it wants to continue straight up from there. Let's see if it breaks that high. This is probably like a news wick as well. All right, so this could be quite nice. If we jump to London session. Oh no, okay, so the main high was broken. What I was about to say is that this was nice because we're seeing price retrace before sweeping this liquidity. That liquidity has now been taken, but still, this looks pretty good. What I would look for here would be for price to come down and grab Asia low. Maybe tap into the demand zone just below, which is this whole area right here. Slightly weird scenario because we do technically still have those equal lows below, but let's see how this goes. So we've had Asia low taken just there. Now we wait for a change of character. All right, price has also tapped into that demand zone we said about. I would also consider longs if price were to sweep these two equal lows as well. That would still technically be valid. So let's see. That doesn't count as a change of character for me. It's just like a single candle. But yeah, what we've seen, if we zoom back out now, and what looks nice about this is the fact that price is still overall bullish. Again, referring to the left, price is not really in an area where you would expect it to reverse. It's kind of paused before the liquidity. So again, you have to kind of stop here and ask yourself, why has price paused before sweeping the liquidity? Because typically it's going to be for it to kind of create liquidity for it to then go higher, right? It's pulled back, taken out some of these previous lows. So I'm again interested in buying from here. For a change of character on this one, we would need to see price come all the way up here though, so it's not ideal, but let's see how this develops. I'm going to play it on higher time frame a minute, just so it's a bit quicker. All right, cool. So we have now technically seen price flip bullish. We've seen it break above this structure. Slightly weird scenario though, because obviously this is a huge range, so I don't really just want to set a limit on this one. I want to wait to see how price reacts. All right, let's see here. Ideally, we see Asia low taken, something like this. So we've seen Asia low taken at London Open. Let's have a look for a confirmation here. Again, this doesn't count for me because it's just a single candle pullback. I want to see something that looks a bit more like a structure. This is also not valid because I want to see a closure above for the trade to be considered valid. Quite choppy price action here, to be fair. Okay, so we've seen price come down. It's grabbed this previous low. Again, just following the structure here. Once it grabbed that low, we have now technically seen a change of character on both the M15 and the M5. For those of you that don't know, my entry is always on M5, but when the 15-minute structure is the same as it is here, right? This is the main high on the 15 and M5. I will use the 15 because it's a bit clearer sometimes. So this is technically a valid trade. We've had price sweep our liquidity level. We've had it present a change of character. We've got this area of imbalanced demand. So I'm going to set my limit on this zone. All right, nope. So that one didn't hold. That's fine. Was a valid trade nevertheless. Like I said, a bit of a choppy situation here. Let's have a look. I think we were just a bit too early there. You can see price re-grab the low, and now we're seeing that shift over to the upside. Now again, it's just kind of consolidating around this region. All right, so next idea, and this is looking pretty good to be honest, would be to see price sweep this consolidation low right here. If it can take this out, we know there's a high probability of price reacting. And again, this is another tip I like to emphasize inside the community with the guys, is that you don't really need to be right about higher time frame market direction, because if you look at these liquidity levels, right, if price sweeps it, you know that it's highly likely to give at least a bounce to the upside, even if it's going to continue lower, right? So we don't need to be right in the sense that we don't need to call the exact bottom, but we can basically anticipate where price is going to react from, and then obviously we pair that with lower time frame confirmations to, you know, actually enter the trade and get a decent risk to reward on it. So let's see how it develops from here. All right, so it seems like it wants to go a bit lower first. Next POI would be, let's just fast forward to London first. Maybe if it takes this low, you can see we've still got this hourly demand zone just below. Like that. So we've seen price take that low, tap into hourly demand. We've also seen Asia low taken at London Open. We've already seen our change of character right here. So ideally we would enter on, we can probably get a decent risk to reward already if we just enter on this zone. There's not really any need to wait for a retracement. So yeah, I'm just going to enter here. Obviously, if you wanted to wait for a pullback, you could wait for a pullback into the imbalance, but I'm happy with this trade already. Might not want to pull back for us. Yeah, there you go. So TP here. On that one, obviously, I played the price slightly too quickly here. We should have entered after this, but like I said, I played price on slightly too quickly. But yeah, great trade. Nevertheless, it would have hit TP had I not played price too quickly. Reacting off that hourly demand. So yeah, basically just looking for more continuations now. Let's have a look if we can see a pullback for more longs here. Maybe into the hourly demand here. There we go. So we've seen a retracement into it. There we go. Very nice reaction so far. We've had our change of character. Entering on the imbalance, which is this whole region here. Oh, damn, that was quick. That was a perfect trade, actually, as you can see. Obviously, there we could have got a more refined entry on the demand itself, but as I always tell the guys inside the community, it's not really worth it. You may as well just, you know, avoid the stress of missing perfectly valid trades because you're trying to get a sniper entry and just enter on the whole imbalance rather than trying to over refine it. So yeah, perfect trade there. On to the next one. So far we've won 2 and lost 1. Actually, we've technically won 3 because this trade down here, we should have set it, but played price slightly too quickly. All right, let's see how this goes. I'm a bit conscious of the fact that there's a bit of liquidity here that price might want to come back for. No, it looks like it wants to just continue straight up. I'm not really seeing anything valid there. Let's keep playing price on a bit. Maybe if we can see it re-grab this previous low into the imbalance. Something like that. That looks pretty good. It's also tapped into this demand to the left. I'm liking the fact that we've got all of this built up, these built up highs as well, just above. All right, price has also presented our entry model here. Entering once again on the imbalance. So just for reference, this is the last bit of liquidity before the imbalance. I'm not trying to get a sniper entry, remember, on the actual demand. I'm just trying to make it make sense. So after I see that change of character plus imbalance, I'm basically just looking for a retracement into a discount, and I'm happy with that. Nope, so that's not pulling back for us. Let's delete the limit. Damn, analysis was perfect as well, but unfortunately price didn't pull back for us. Yeah, so we've had a new breaker structure now. Notice how here price is just gravitating back up towards the previous trend high. That becomes our liquidity target for price to head for. So let's fast forward Asia. Hopefully we can see London push down and sweep of Asia low. Right, something like that. There's probably not going to be a confirmation here though. That's the only thing. Yeah, there you go. So price just went straight to the previous highs. It's hard to trade when price does that because there's not really a confirmation. It just shot straight up. Not really too much we can do about that. Right, so we've now seen price break the main high again, as you guys can see. So all of this becomes internal structure because price has now broken this main external trend high. Again, I want to be a bit conscious here of the fact that price has now taken this last bit of liquidity into the imbalance. But to be honest, with this momentum, I would now expect price just to gravitate towards this previous high. I'm not really seeing any reason to sell this, to be honest. Let's have a look on lower time frame. Like even on lower time frame, if you were looking for a sell here, there's no structure for price to break, so it wouldn't be possible to get a sell here anyway. So let's look for the next buying opportunity. Maybe from one of these demand zones lower down. Right, this is the first one that I would look at. Fast forward in Asia session. I get asked this question a lot, guys. By the way, Asia session here in the UK is overnight for me, which is why I don't trade it. And in addition to that, Asia session on pound US dollar and euro dollar is not really worth trading anyway because price will typically move very slowly and just build liquidity for London session. So yeah, we've had Asia low swept into our POI. Let's jump over to the M5 and see if we get an entry. Yep, there we go. So we've had our entry right there. Change of character from the POI after Asia low swept. Now we just want to wait for a retracement into a discount, which is this area right here. Let's set the limit. I might be a bit more aggressive with the stop on this one. Reason being, if it goes below this demand, there's nothing else really for price to react from, so it's probably just going to go for the low anyway. All right, let's see. Still looking good at the moment. No, damn. So that one actually did run 2.6%. Obviously, we could have got a more aggressive stop loss, but like I said, it was already quite an aggressive stop loss anyway. That's fine. It was a valid trade, so let's move on to the next one. Price is technically still within our demand zone though, so we could still see the longs from here. If not, we have this 4-hour demand zone as well. So what I'm thinking with this is that price is still within this hourly demand. It's taken out this first touch of the zone. So we've had this sweep of liquidity in it. If we look on the lower time frames, we have had price shift back bullish just here. So actually this is a valid trade. I think the risk reward will already be worth it if we enter from here as well. So I'm going to enter this and see how it goes. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could wait for a pullback into the demand, but for me, this is already worth it. No, so, damn. I think we were just slightly too early on that, guys. So we've had price now re-grab that low, and you can see all of this momentum coming in. We very clearly had that shift back bullish with a lot of intent coming into the market. You can also see it's broken back bullish on hourly as well. Yeah, there you go. So price is just continuing to rally higher. So that was a bit annoying, but let's look for another trade. We have this demand zone, if price can retrace into it. Right, so I would also consider if it took this, which is, again, that last bit of liquidity before the imbalance. If you look on hourly time frame, last bit of liquidity inside this whole imbalance. So if anything, this is where price is going to react to from. Let's have a look. So London opens, we've had Asia low taken. I want to see it come a little bit lower into the demand itself first. Yeah, something like that. That's nice. And now we're looking for a confirmation. Nope, so no confirmation. Price just continued to rally straight up. Right, maybe now we can get a confirmation. So we've had price also tap into this lower time frame demand, sweep London lows into it. Yeah, there you go. So that's perfect. We've already had a confirmation there. We've had sweep of that inducement, change of character. This is the last bit of liquidity before the imbalance. So I'm going to enter on this. If price can retrace, 1 to 3 TP as always. I'm going to enter on this zone instead. I don't see price pulling back to that original area. Could be wrong, but I think it's worth the risk to enter a bit higher up here. Right, so that was a loss. I think the original idea was probably the best one, entering from this zone. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to get back in this if price can retest into our original demand zone. And then once again, just target the previous, target a 1 to 3. No, oh damn, so that's annoying. We should have stuck with the original limit, price tagged the original limit, and then headed over to the TP, but that's fine. We can now look for another opportunity anyway. Again, this is quite nice because price is now retracing before sweeping that liquidity up here. So in terms of points of interest, this area of demand stands out to me. If it comes lower than that, maybe we could see a sweep of this previous low here. Yeah, there we go. So we've seen price tap into that demand. See if we get a confirmation. Yeah, there we go. So we've had the demand swept. We've seen this change of character. I'm going to enter on slight retracement into, probably want at least this because we want to wait for price to retrace into a discount. 1 to 3 TP as always. No, so would have cancelled that anyway. Price just wicked that low out one more time. Probably some sort of news, so obviously I wouldn't have been trading that. And yeah, we've now had another main breaker structure as well, which was this previous high. So we'll get rid of all of this because once again, this becomes internal structure. So yeah, we get rid of that. And yeah, like I said, just now looking for more longs up into this previous high. I might also just mark it on so we know when it's hit, because I want to look for potential shorts when it is hit. Not really seeing too much at the moment. All right, no. So that liquidity has now been swept on daily time frame. So this is why we're looking for shorts, right? We've seen price come up, grab daily highs. This area was a 4-hour supply zone. Keeping in mind as well that we still have that bearish perspective that we could take, which was that if we zoom back out to daily, we could say that this was a daily break structure. So this could just be a retracement into a premium for more sells, right? So I'm going to monitor this area and keep an eye out for some shorts. If we also see more longs, we could probably see price, you know, maybe come into this zone. Again, what I'm doing here is I'm not trying to predict that it's going to completely sell off. I'm reacting to price. So if it does present sells in this area, we can look for sells, but if it presents shorts, sorry, if it presents longs instead, we can look to continue buying. So yeah, let's have a look how this develops. This was also Asia session, so let me fast forward this first. All right, so we've seen Asia push down. Ideally, I want to see Asia taken out before we look to short. Maybe we can get some longs back up from our demand as well. From this area that price just tapped into. Right, so we've seen following day come down, sweep Asia low into this demand. I'm looking to long here. If we can get a change of character. There we go, that's perfect. So we've seen our change of character. In terms of entries, we could wait for a retracement here into this demand, which created imbalance. So this is perfectly valid. Might just place it a little bit higher up. Actually, there's no reason to get a over-refined entry. We can still get a decent risk reward on this anyway. Right, we're in. Let's see how this goes. Very nice. Demand held at the moment. Let's see if we can get that push. Yeah, there we go. Nice. So if I wasn't using the mechanical 1 to 3 here, I would also target Asia high, but I am. So on to the next trade. Could probably look for another long here. So we've had, after a reaction from that demand, we've had a change of character. Price has come down, grabbed that last bit of liquidity into the imbalance. And like I said, I'm expecting before we see higher price, if we're going to see lower prices, we could see price maybe come up and re-grab that high one more time. right, so we have technically seen a change of character from this area, and we have this imbalanced demand zone. So I'm going to enter this and have stops below the low. 1 to 3 TP up here. All right, let's see. I would say this is a bit lower probability just because it has technically reacted from the daily, the 4-hour supply, as I said. Yeah, there we go. So stop loss on that one. I'm just going to let this play out for a bit and see where price wants to go. So I'm not really too keen on this. It's kind of just consolidating. Right, I'm going to see how it reacts to this because it does look... This is still quite like a very corrective looking pullback down. So we could maybe see one last push up. Something like this. So you can see here price wicked this 4-hour demand and presented a change of character. No, I think it just wants to go lower here. Right, this might be nice. So we've had price, notice how this pullback, right, is very corrective looking. It's pulling back, building all of this liquidity above these previous highs. It's tapped into this 4-hour supply demand zone. Grab some previous lows here. We haven't yet seen a change of character, so I'm going to wait. Hard thing about this one is that the change of character is actually all the way up here. But yeah, it does seem intent on going for that previous high. Yeah, there you go. So we've now had that change of character from the 4-hour demand zone. And cool. So we've seen price pull back, sweep these previous lows. Hasn't presented an entry confirmation, so nothing valid here. All right, jump into London. There you go. So Asia low taken out. And price also tapped into this demand. Looking for it to basically come up towards these previous highs as well. No entry confirmation here yet though. So it looks like it wants to go lower. Next POI would be this liquidity level here, potentially. Again, it's a little bit conflicting though because it has taken this first high out, so I'm gonna be a bit more like conservative here. All right, no, so it went for the previous lows here. It's still reacting to this 4-hour demand, so could just view this as a sweep once again. I'm going to pay attention to how it reacts to this. That's an Asia session, so fast forward in this. Right, there you go. There's that momentum coming in. Still a bit conflicting here, to be honest, guys. Let me fast forward Asia, see where it wants to go. It's conflicting because it's swept the low, but it's now come up into the area of supply as well. If we're going to look for buys, I want to at least see Asia low. Take them. Alright, no, doesn't seem like that wants to happen. But yeah, we've got a bit more clarity in terms of direction now. Price is heading over to the upside. So what I would look for here, maybe if we can get a push down into this demand. Nope, so market opens and we didn't get the push down. Cool, so this could be nice though. So notice how now we've had a regrab of that previous high into this area 4-hour supply. So I'm gonna look for some shorts here. Let's see, let's fast forward Asia again. So ideally I want to see Asia high go first. Doesn't seem like it's happening though. Notice how this looks like a breaker structure as well. It just looks very obvious. I wouldn't expect price to, you know, respect this structure. It just looks a bit too obvious. So I'm going to look for a retracement here to get in on the shorts. Let's see if price retraces. Not really seeing any clear points of interest though. That's the only thing here. Maybe if we can see Asia low, sorry, Asia high regrabbed. Something like that. No, no entry there anyway. So yeah, maybe if we can see Asia high taken one more time. All right, no, so price looks like it's just going down straight from here. Still looking for more shorts. This is looking decent for more sells. Damn, I think I played price a bit too quickly there. Yeah, that's annoying. So we could have probably got an entry there, but played it a bit too quickly. All right, so if this loads, let me just refresh the page, guys. Pretty slow session so far in terms of entries, but let's see what we can do here. So yeah, now very clearly this is pretty nice because we've had this 4-hour change of character, right? Price has pulled back up. Again, if we zoom on into the lower time frame, what I want to look for here, this was the last bit of liquidity before the imbalance. So given that we've had this big imbalance push up, I want to look for some shorts here. Something like this would be nice. So we've had area of imbalance supply after the change of character. So if price can retrace into this zone above that high, I am going to look for some shorts here. Let's see if we can actually get a retracement. I might actually enter on this zone instead. It's a very clear area of supply above Asia high. No, again, looks like it's not pulling back for us. Very annoying. Kind of the summary of this session, which is prices respecting our analysis but not presenting any entries. Yeah, so again, new breaker structure, no entry, but that's fine. We can look for another retracement here. next idea would be if price can pull back into this supply. Obviously now it's very clearly heading for some of these previous lows. I'm not looking to buy this. So yeah, let's see if price can come into this zone. There we go. So tapped into the zone. Jumping over to M5 chart. Let's have a look for an entry. There we go. Perfect. Actually not perfect. This is the Asian session. So yeah, we've technically had our change of character here. Asia session, it did happen in Asia, but we've got this clear entry confirmation with an imbalanced supply zone just here. If I just mark this on, there we go. So I'm going to set a limit on this region. Stops a little bit above just in case it wants to re-grab Asia. Nope, so that was annoying. Price went around 2% in our favor. It's come back up and taken this high. So next idea. I would still look for shorts here actually. So we've had, again, this last bit of liquidity taken before the imbalance. So let's have a look how it develops from here. I think we have already had, yeah, we've already had another confirmation here, right? So again, I'm going to get back in the shorts from the last bit of liquidity here. And yeah, we will see how this goes. Yeah, nice. There we go. So TP hit on that one. And like I said, guys, when a massive tip is always monitor after that last bit of liquidity is swept before the imbalance. And then when you pair that with obviously higher time frame direction and your lower time frame confirmation as well, you can nearly always kind of catch a reaction from these areas, even if price is going to do something like this where it goes a bit lower and then just continues higher. You can still capitalize on that reaction. So quite a slow session, but let's have a look at the analytics that we've had so far. I think they were still pretty decent. So we've had 42% win rate with a 1-to-3 risk reward across 38 trades. So obviously not as good as usual. I think on some of the gold sessions, we've had like a 60% win rate. But overall, obviously still very profitable with a smooth equity curve. And max loss streak was 4, so still drawdown well managed. There would be no issues with trading prop firms or anything like that. But yeah, guys, if you missed any of the previous parts to this backtesting series, I'll put the playlist up here for you to watch the other videos in it next. I hope you all enjoyed today's session. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.